Welcome to Cheater Confessions. Let's get started with today's story. Stephanie and I had been engaged for 9 months, together for 4 years. The wedding was set for the end of summer. Her parents had gone all in. Venue booked, catering locked, deposits down. We'd been living together for 2 years in the house I bought before we even met. My name was the only one on the deed. We'd always kept our finances separate. Her idea, not mine. One Thursday evening, she came into the living room while I was checking emails. She stood there for a second, like she was waiting for the right moment to drop something heavy. "Martin," she said, "I think I need to find myself before we get married." I looked up. "Find yourself? I don't know. I want to be sure before we make this commitment. I think we should take a short break. 6 weeks, maybe 8. Just some time apart." I kept my face neutral. "And where would you stay?" Naomi offered her guest room. She's barely there with all her traveling. It's just, I need space to think without the wedding pressure. Naomi, her single, never-married friend who'd been telling Stephanie for months she was settling down too soon, seemed like an obvious choice for this kind of reflection. "You're asking for a break," I said, "right before the wedding. It's not about you. I love you. I just need to be sure. This will be good for us." I nodded slowly. "Take all the time you need." Her shoulders dropped, like she'd been bracing for an argument. "Really? You understand?" "I understand perfectly." She smiled faintly, relieved. That night, she pulled 2 large suitcases from the closet and began packing. Clothes for every season, heels, makeup bags, and even a few framed photos from the dresser. Not exactly a weekend getaway. Before leaving, she set her house key on the counter. "Won't need this for a while," she said, almost playfully. An hour later, she was gone. The house felt quieter than usual, but I didn't dwell on it. She thought I'd be here, waiting, when she decided she was sure. I already knew I wouldn't be. The morning after Stephanie left, I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, looking around at the place. Every square foot of it was mine, paid for before she even knew my name. She'd always said she wanted to keep her money separate, just in case. I had agreed without much thought at the time. Now it felt like foresight. I remembered a conversation from last year with a local entrepreneur, Darren Brooks. He owned several properties in the area and had been eyeing mine for his next project. His offer had been well above market, but back then, selling never crossed my mind. Stephanie loved this house. We were building our life here, or so I thought. I found his number in my phone and placed the call. He picked up almost immediately, clearly eager to discuss the property on Maple Street. He made an offer of $390,000 in cash, with a closing date in 45 days, and said he would send the paperwork that afternoon. I told him to go ahead and forward the documents, but I wasn't committing yet. Before making any decisions, I needed to be certain of my legal position. That afternoon, I met with a real estate attorney named Thomas Kent. I explained the entire situation. Stephanie and I were engaged. She had moved out for an open-ended break. I had purchased the house well before we met, and there were no joint accounts or her name on any legal documents. He reviewed the facts and confirmed that she had no ownership rights to the property. The only potential issue, he said, was her personal belongings, which would need to be given proper written notice and stored securely. As for the financial arrangement, Stephanie had been paying half the household expenses. He explained that because I had documented those payments as rent, it legally established a landlord-tenant relationship rather than any shared ownership. I already had the records, neatly organized, which meant I was fully within my rights to sell the house without her involvement. I left his office with a simple plan. Stephanie wanted time apart to figure out her future. Fine. I'd use the same time to figure mine. The difference was, mine didn't include keeping her options open at my expense. 2 weeks into her break, Stephanie had called me twice. Both times the conversations were short, just enough to maintain a thread of connection without saying much. She never asked about the house or about me. She did, however, post plenty online. I didn't need to go looking for it. Friends sent me screenshots, photos of her and Naomi at rooftop bars, dinners with people I didn't recognize, beach selfies with captions about living in the moment. One night, she was tagged in a video at some club, dancing with a group that included at least 2 men I'd never seen before. I didn't comment, didn't confront her, but I kept every piece of it. By the end of week 2, I decided to deal with her belongings. I sent her a text. "We should talk about your things here. What's your plan for them?" Her reply came 5 minutes later. "Martin, It's not like I moved out. Everything can stay right where it is. I'll be back before you know it. I called. Stephanie, you've been gone over 2 weeks. You left your key. You said you needed space. That's moving out in my book. Don't be dramatic. This is temporary. Just leave my stuff. I didn't argue. All right? You'll have 1 week to arrange a pickup if you change your mind. She laughed lightly. You're not serious. But I was. Next Thursday, a moving crew arrived. I walked through each room, taking photos as they carefully boxed her clothes, shoes, and personal items. I rented a storage unit, labeled every box, and kept every receipt. Once it was done, I sent her a text with the storage address, unit number, and the facility's contact. No explanations. An hour later, she replied, I can't believe you're doing this. You asked for space. I'm giving you space, I wrote back. She didn't answer, but that night, her social media lit up again, this time tagged at a private pool party. I finished reviewing the purchase agreement from Darren before I went to bed. Everything was ready. All it needed was my signature. By week 4, I had signed the agreement. The closing was set for 45 days, but he wanted possession the day we signed. He planned a complete renovation, and the sooner he could start, the better. I'd already found a furnished apartment downtown, 9th floor, big windows, short walk to my office. The kind of place I would have never rented while living with Stephanie because she preferred homey neighborhoods. I started moving my things in small batches. The essentials went first: clothes, work gear, and important documents. Meanwhile, Stephanie was in Las Vegas with Naomi and a group of friends. I didn't need to ask what they were doing. The posts said it all: poolside cocktails, expensive dinners, photos with men's arms around her shoulders. She wasn't hiding any of it. I didn't bring it up. In fact, I didn't contact her at all that week. She'd made it clear this was her time, and I respected that, just not in the way she imagined. The night before closing, I stood in the living room. The place was quiet, stripped of everything personal. I thought about the day I bought it, about the work I'd put into making it mine, about how Stephanie had insisted on keeping our finances separate to maintain independence. I wondered if she realized how much independence that gave me, too. The next morning, I met Darren at the title office. We signed, exchanged keys, and shook hands. Just like that, the house was no longer mine. Walking out of the office, I didn't feel regret. I felt lighter. Stephanie was somewhere in Las Vegas, probably making plans for her next night out. I didn't plan to tell her a thing. She would find out soon enough. Stephanie came back earlier than I expected. It was a Saturday morning, just over 6 weeks since she'd left. My phone buzzed twice before I even had coffee. Calls from her I didn't answer. On the third, I picked up. Martin, she said, her voice sharp, there are strangers in our house. They say they own it. What's going on? They do own it, I said calmly. Silence on the line. What do you mean they own it? I sold it. Closed last week. You sold our house? My house. Bought it before we met. Paid for entirely by me, in my name. You moved out. I made a decision. I didn't move out. I told you it was temporary. You left for nearly 2 months, gave me your key, packed half your wardrobe, and went to live with Naomi. That's moving out. That was to get perspective, to make sure I was ready for marriage. I kept my tone steady. I got perspective too. Turns out I was ready for a different kind of future. You can't just sell it while I'm gone, she said, her voice breaking. I can, and I did. Your belongings are in storage. I sent you the unit number and address weeks ago. This is insane. I love you, Martin. I came back because I want us to work. I let a beat pass. I saw the photos, Stephanie. Vegas, pool parties, dinners with men I don't know. That's not how people prepare for marriage. They were friends of Naomi's. It was harmless. Harmless or not, it was your choice. And this, I gestured even though she couldn't see me, was mine. You're throwing away 4 years. No, I said. 4 years ended when you decided you needed to see what else was out there. I'm just making it official. She was quiet for a moment, then hung up without another word. I knew this wouldn't be the last I heard from her. The first call came from Naomi that evening. No, hello, no pause. What the hell, Martin? You sold the house out from under her? I sold my house, I said. Stephanie didn't live there anymore. She was coming back. It was just space. Everyone needs that sometimes. Space is one thing. Flying to Vegas for parties and letting strange guys drape their arms around you while your fiancé sits at home? That's not space. That's a trial run at single life. Naomi's voice tightened. You're being petty. No, I said. I'm being clear. She wanted freedom. I gave it to her. Naomi huffed into the phone and hung up. The next day, Stephanie's mother called. She kept her tone calm, but there was steel under it. Martin, this seems extreme. You could have waited. We have deposits, plans, people expecting a wedding. Your daughter ended those plans when she walked out, I replied. She was nervous, that's all. People get cold feet before big commitments. I let the silence stretch. Check her social media from the past 2 months. See if it looks like someone thinking about marriage. Her voice faltered. Other people were there. It's not what it looks like. Maybe, but I'm not going to marry someone who needs to live like that to find herself. She sighed. We've spent a lot on this wedding. I understand. But your daughter chose this break, not me. I just made a choice too. On Wednesday, Stephanie showed up at my apartment unannounced. She stood at the door with red eyes and a forced smile. Later, I learned a mutual friend had given her the address. Can we talk? Face to face? We've already talked. Not like this. You blindsided me. I thought we were strong enough to survive a few weeks apart. I opened the door wider but didn't invite her in. Stephanie, the time apart didn't make you sure about us. It just made me certain about what I won't accept. Her smile faded. She didn't argue. She turned and walked down the hall without looking back. 3 months later, the wedding date came and went without a word from me. Stephanie was living in a small one-bedroom on the other side of town. Friends told me she'd been saying I was vindictive, that I'd destroyed everything over a harmless break. Her parents formally canceled the wedding and ate most of the lost deposits. I didn't gloat, didn't rub it in. I had nothing to prove. The money from the house sale sat in my account, untouched, except for a few investments. Stephanie reached out a few times. One message read, I've learned my lesson, we can make it work. Another offered to sign a prenup to show I'm serious. I ignored them all. The issue had never been money. The last time we spoke was a late-night call 6 weeks ago. She sounded tired. Martin, I need you to know I loved you. I still do. I believe that, I said. Then why can't we fix this? Because love isn't enough if it comes with doubt. You weren't sure you wanted to marry me. That's not something we can rewind. I was just scared, she whispered. Scared that marrying me was a mistake, I said. That's all I needed to hear. She didn't respond. Eventually, she hung up. By then, I was already seeing someone new. Sarah worked in project management for one of our contractors. When I told her about the break before the wedding situation, she shook her head. Who does that? That's insane. I smiled. She got it. Stephanie had wanted time to find herself. She found a different reality, one where I wasn't waiting at the end of her adventure. Some decisions can't be undone. She thought she could take her space and still have her future with me locked in place. She learned that space can feel a lot like goodbye. Thank you for watching.